All right, today we're going to dive into the really powerful and, yes, sometimes controversial ideas from Robert Kiyosaki's Rich Dad, Poor Dad. We're going to pull apart the core lessons that pretty much flip everything most of us were taught about money completely on its head. So let me just start by asking you this. What did your parents teach you about money? Was it that standard advice you always hear, go to school, get a good, safe job, save your money? Or was it something else? Think about it, because your answer is right at the heart of everything we're about to talk about. It really sets the stage for two totally different ways of living. And this right here gets to the absolute core of Kiyosaki's whole argument. He says the number one reason the rich get richer, the poor get poorer, and the middle class just seems to be stuck is because we learn about money at home. That means whatever lessons you get are totally dependent on your family's financial world, which creates these completely different paths right from the very beginning. Which, of course, brings us to the central story of this whole philosophy, the tale of two dads. See, Robert Kiyosaki had these two major father figures in his life, and when it came to money, their advice could not have been more different. So on one side, you've got his poor dad, that's his real father, a highly educated guy with a stable government job. His advice was what you'd expect: work for your money, and your house is your biggest asset. But then you have Rich Dad, an entrepreneur who told him the exact opposite. He said, you need to have money work for you, that failure is actually how you learn, and get this, your home is a liability. We're not just talking about slightly different tips here. These are two completely different realities. Okay, so let's explore that first path for a minute, the one most of us are taught to follow, the path of safe advice. This is the classic poor dad's playbook, isn't it? It's the advice so many of us grew up with. But according to Kiyosaki, this whole way of thinking is really driven by just two emotions: fear and greed. The fear of not having enough money, and then that feeling of desire or greed that kicks in the second you get a paycheck, which makes you want to go out and spend it. And here's the trap. Getting a job, it's great. It solves the immediate problem. You need cash, you get cash. But it does absolutely nothing to solve the long-term problem of actually building wealth. This path, more often than not, just leads to a lifetime of working for money. You get stuck in what he famously called the rat race, never really getting that true financial freedom. So, if that's the trap, what's the alternative? Well, the rich dad path doesn't start with actions. It starts with a huge, fundamental shift in your mindset. It's all about how you think about money in the first place. This is it. This is the cornerstone of the entire philosophy. While most people are out there looking for a job, the wealthy are looking to build or invest in systems and networks that make money for them, whether they're physically working or not. It's the massive difference between earning a salary and building a business or a portfolio that works for you 24/7. Now, according to Rich Dad, one of the most destructive things you can say is, I can't afford it. And you might wonder why. Well, it's because it's a dead end. It's a statement that just shuts your brain down and kills any possibility of finding a solution. But look what happens when you just flip that phrase into a question. How can I afford it? All of a sudden, you're forcing your brain to wake up and get to work. It opens your mind up to creativity, to problem solving, and to all these opportunities you would have just walked right past. It's a tiny little tweak in language, but the implications are massive. Okay, if you only remember one thing from all of this, please let it be this next part. Kiyosaki says the entire foundation of building wealth, the whole shebang, boils down to understanding one simple rule. And it's all about two simple words. The first word is asset. Now, forget all the complicated accounting definitions you've ever heard. In this world, an asset is just something that puts money into your pocket. That's it. Think about a rental property bringing in rent each month, or stocks that pay you dividends. And the second word, you guessed it, is liability. A liability is anything that takes money out of your pocket. Simple as that. This could be your car payment, your credit card debt, or, and this is the one that gets everybody, your own home. So I'm going to ask you directly, based on those two super simple definitions, is the house you live in an asset? According to Rich Dad, the answer is a hard no. Why? Because every single month, it's taking money out of your pocket. For the mortgage, for taxes, for insurance, for repairs. It doesn't put money in your pocket, which makes it a liability. I know that's a really tough one for most people to swallow. And here's how this simple rule completely changes behavior. The poor and middle class, they tend to get their income and immediately go buy luxuries or liabilities, a new car, a vacation. The rich, they do the exact opposite. They take their income and buy assets first. Then, and only then, do they use the new income that their assets generate to buy their luxuries.
It's a completely different flow of money.
So, this is all great in theory, right? But how do we actually turn this knowledge into action? Let's talk about the practical steps and, just as important, the mental blocks we've got to get over to actually make this happen.
A huge piece of this is completely reframing how you see failure. Our school system basically teaches us that making mistakes is the worst thing you can do. But out here in the real world, failure is how you learn. Winners aren't people who never fail, they are people who just aren't afraid of it. If you spend your life trying to avoid failure, you're also avoiding success. Now, check this out because this is fascinating. Let's talk about debt. The huge majority of people, something like 80%, use debt to make themselves poorer. They buy liabilities with it, financing cars, funding a lifestyle they can't really afford. But a small group, maybe 20%, they use debt to get richer. They use it smartly to buy assets, like an investment property, that will make them more money. It's the same exact tool, just used in completely opposite ways. So, if we put it all together, the path forward really comes down to these four things. First, you've got to master your mindset. Your brain is your number one asset. Second, you have to learn from failure instead of running from it. Third, focus on building your networks, not just looking for a job. And finally, you have to get obsessed with managing your cash flow, truly understanding the difference between an asset and a liability. All right, as we start to wrap this up, the goal here isn't just to throw information at you. It's to leave you feeling genuinely empowered with a whole new way of looking at your own financial path. I want you to really remember this. Every single dollar that comes into your life, it represents a choice. You and only you hold the power to decide your financial destiny with every single decision you make about that dollar. Are you going to spend it on a liability, or are you going to use it to buy an asset? The choice is always yours. And I want to leave you with this final, really powerful piece of wisdom. It's a bit of a paradox, but it is so true. The conventional path, just getting a job, it feels easy at first, right? But it can become a very hard life of financial struggle. The other path, the path of building assets, that's hard in the beginning. It takes discipline, it takes learning, but it can lead to a very easy life of financial freedom. So, at the end of the day, the ultimate question isn't about what Robert Kiyosaki did, it's about what you are going to do. You have the framework now. You know the definitions, you know the mindset. The real question is, what path will you choose? What are you going to do with this knowledge starting today?